Good morning. It's Diane Sayre, and I have an update. Today, of course, is August 6th, 2024. It is the 79th anniversary of the dropping of the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima, followed 3 days later by dropping another nuclear bomb on Nagasaki. All of this after General Douglas MacArthur, had waged a very successful naval blockade, and the Emperor of Japan was already working out the terms of surrender through the Vatican. So why did we do this? We did this to ensure Bertrand Russell's dream of one world government hegemony, to instill terror in people. And to this day, the United States remains the only nation that has used a nuclear bomb, although many, including esteemed retired military leaders like Colonel Douglas Macgregor, believe that Israel may use a nuclear weapon if it comes to a full-out war with Iran, which some lunatics in our Congress are talking about. But just let me go back. I want to remind you of what Hiroshima looked like, and I'll just show here. So they say 80,000 people died immediately. You see the rubble. I hope people are familiar with the film 815, From Father to Daughter, about the survivor of the Hiroshima bombing. His daughter, Dr. Mikamo, and producer Heffelfinger have just produced a film which is very, very powerful. I watched it last year. The nuclear bombs we have today are much more powerful than this. So anyone who even thinks that we should be talking about this or doing this is clearly out of their mind. And at the moment, let me please announce that on Friday at 11 a.m., the Schiller Institute is holding an International Peace Coalition meeting. I would urge people to register for that. That is on the anniversary of the Nagasaki bombing. Now, I want to share with you one of my favorite quotes of all time. This is from Douglas MacArthur, General MacArthur, when he received the surrender of the Japanese. Like Abraham Lincoln, like Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, he also understood that the way to secure peace is not by humiliation, degradation, mass murder, but through dignity. And he worked very closely with the Japanese, who were not war criminals, to rebuild Japan and to create conditions where they could govern themselves. But here are his thoughts upon seeing the devastation of the nuclear bombs. This is part of the speech he gave when he received the surrender of the Japanese. Quote, "We have had our last chance. If we do not now devise some greater and more equitable system, Armageddon will be at our door. The problem basically is theological and involves a spiritual recrudescence and improvement of human character that will synchronize with our almost matchless advances in science, art, literature, and all material and cultural developments of the past 2,000 years. It must be of the spirit if we are to save the flesh." Very beautiful and very true. So how do we have this spiritual recrudescence? Well, Friedrich Schiller wrote a whole essay on the aesthetical education of man, saying that it is through beauty that one proceeds to freedom. So as people know, everyone is walking on eggshells, waiting for the expected Iranian response to the assassinations carried out by Israel after Bibi Netanyahu's disgusting and embarrassing visit to the United States, where the congressmen were drooling and cheering and could not, it was like some kind of Roman circus display. Very embarrassing that a war criminal would get that kind of greeting in the United States. And it's widely suspected that at that time we gave Bibi Netanyahu the green light to escalate. We also have an escalation in Ukraine versus Russia, where Ukraine is absolutely not winning, but we have nonetheless delivered B-16 bombers. Now, I want to show you something because people are aware that the markets are collapsing, but I have to tell you the real economy actually collapsed long ago. And I'm going to go to Lyndon LaRouche's triple curve function, which is my next slide here. So this is extremely important. What is this? This corner on the far left where you see the red, blue, and yellow, black lines together. Time is the yellow line across going horizontally. Uh, prior to 1971, when Nixon decoupled the dollar from gold, the dollar was actually connected to our physical productivity. So you didn't have three curves. You had one curve, which was as we produced more, as the physical economic output increased, so did money flow, capital flow, and financial aggregates. That is, the stock market was actually tied to levels of production. After the dollar was decoupled from gold, we had this peculiar idea that the way you would make money is by speculating. You could gamble against currency fluctuations, or you could place a side bet that Trans World Airlines was going to go bankrupt. And even though the actual company went bankrupt, going down here on the physical economic output curve, your winnings, your earnings in the gambling casino could go up. And so what we are now at is the peculiar circumstance where literally the higher the stock market goes, the lower our standard of living is and the less value the dollar has. Now, in 2008, we had a shock. LaRouche warned about it, unlike people who say, oh, no one saw it coming. Lyndon LaRouche warned about it a year ahead of time, precisely accurately. It happened finally in 2008. And you had a collapse, but we didn't change anything. We did not increase production. We did not regulate the stockholders. So now what we have is a bubble, which is much larger than the bubble of 2008, and it has to go. I don't think any of you can think of a single bubble that didn't collapse, explode, implode, whatever you want to call it. No bubble lasts forever. And that is where we are. So that is the driver of the desperation for war. Now, some people like Kirsten Gillibrand are making a lot of money on the war drive, even as they loot our physical economy. I've been touring the state at fairs. The poverty in the state of New York is astounding. Niagara County is a farm area, and it has the #1 drug overdose rate in the entire state, but they're getting very little funding to deal with it. Gillibrand is too busy funding the war in Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza. She's not really interested in the welfare of New Yorkers. Also, as you may have heard, in Manhattan, Beth Israel of Mount Sinai Hospital is now going to be closing on the Lower East Side. So we are also eliminating health care for the American people while we kill people abroad. I am calling for all of this to be reversed through an act called From Swords into Plowshares, where we retool our military industrial companies to build civilian infrastructure. Doing this and reinstating the Glass-Steagall Act would actually increase the purchasing power of the dollar. It would be the way to stop inflation, raise the standard of living, and create a situation where, once again, the unimaginable, one person working 40 hours a week could support a family. So again, I'd like to invite everyone to join me Friday at 11 a.m. on the International Peace Coalition Zoom call on the anniversary of the bombing of Nagasaki. And I would like to urge everyone to please have in mind today what happened 79 years ago on August 6th, the bombing of Hiroshima, which killed 80,000 people. And let us resolve that we are never going to go there again.